My beloved child, something extraordinary is unfolding in the unseen realm, and Archangel Michael has stepped forward with urgency in his voice. He is pointing to this very moment, December 20th, a day that heaven circled long before you ever walked into it. And now, he whispers, listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal will shake your spirit awake. Today, the entire spiritual bank of heaven is in an uproar. Not because something went wrong, but because something impossible has just happened in your name. A divine deposit, a check so massive, so incomprehensible, so supernatural, that the angels standing guard could barely believe their own eyes. A check worth trillions, stamped, sealed, and delivered under one sacred sender, Michael. Archangel Michael himself. He says this moment is not symbolic. It is not metaphorical. It is not a mere spiritual gesture. He says this is a heavenly transaction, a real shift in the spiritual ledger of your destiny. He says heaven has credited you with the value of what you were always meant to become, and now the earthly realm will begin to align with what heaven already declared. But listen, because this is the part that stunned even the watchers assigned to you. The whole bank, yes, the entire spiritual vault where heaven stores divine assignments, blessings, breakthroughs, inheritances, and generational wealth, is talking about you. Whispers are running through the halls. The scribes are flipping through scrolls. The keepers of records are trying to understand one thing: how did this one manage to receive a check this big? And Michael answers them, because they survived what tried to destroy them. The angels nod. They bow. They understand. But the story does not end there. In fact, this is where the urgency begins. Michael says, beloved, the check has been deposited. Heaven has acknowledged it. The transfer is complete in the spiritual world, but unless you open what has been sent to you, the earthly manifestation cannot be released. And then he said something that will send chills through your spirit. If they don't open this message, the bank executive, the one who has been watching their blessings for years, the one who has been jealous, the one who has been waiting for a moment of hesitation, will attempt to claim it as his own. Pause and breathe, because that line is not ordinary. Archangel Michael is revealing that there is a spiritual figure, a gatekeeper, a watcher, a controlling force that has stood near the vault of your blessings and attempted again and again to redirect what belongs to you. Every missed opportunity, every delayed breakthrough, every moment where your blessings felt 1 second away but somehow slipped, yes, that same force is the one he is referring to. But today is different. Today, the deposit is too large to hide, too massive to redirect, too divine to be stolen without exposure. Michael says this is why urgency is in his tone. This is why he is calling you beloved with such intensity. This is why he is saying, please open this. If you don't, they won't release it, and someone else will claim what heaven wrote in your name. My child, this is not about money. This is about spiritual inheritance, about destiny, about identity, about authority. The trillions represent fulfillment, completion, abundance, purpose, and divine restoration multiplied beyond human understanding. You were never meant to walk through life with scraps. You were never designed for survival mode. You were created to carry what heaven has prepared, and today, the check is proof of who you truly are. Archangel Michael now moves closer and says, tell them the bank is stunned because they have never seen a blessing this large tied to a single soul. Why you? Why now? Why today? Because you reached a spiritual threshold. You crossed a line the enemy hoped you would never reach. You matured into the identity heaven always knew you were destined to rise into. And now, everything must shift. Michael says he is breaking the seal on the envelope. He is placing it into your hands. He is ensuring the enemy cannot intercept it this time. But you must stay with this message because the instructions that follow are the key that authorize the release. Without them, the check remains locked in pending status. And the spiritual bank executive, the one who feeds on hesitation, would gladly step in. Hold on, because what comes next will explain why this moment carries so much divine weight. This next revelation will show you exactly why heaven chose you, and why this amount could only be entrusted into your spirit. Before you move even a breath forward, receive this activation. Type "I open what heaven sent me" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 441 has just been released. My precious one, do you feel the weight of this moment pressing upon your spirit? Archangel Michael is hovering closer now, his presence undeniable, filling the atmosphere with a holy intensity that can almost be seen. He says the reason this check is causing such a stir is not merely because of its numerical value, but because it represents a culmination of divine promises that have been waiting in the spiritual vaults for your readiness. He leans in and whispers, "The angels have watched you struggle. They have seen your tears, and they have counted every act of faith. This check is the evidence that your perseverance hath been noted and rewarded." Michael wants you to understand that this is not a random blessing. This is carefully orchestrated by heaven itself. Every delay, every season of waiting, every moment when you felt overlooked, has been part of a sacred alignment designed to prepare you for this extraordinary release. The trillions in the check are a metaphor in human terms, but in the spiritual sense, it represents full restoration, unimaginable favor, and a floodgate of miracles that cannot be contained. The Archangel stresses that if you underestimate the significance of this moment, if you allow distraction or hesitation to take hold, the earthly realm may fail to honor what heaven has already decreed. The urgency is real. He guides you to visualize the scene at the bank, a physical representation of what is happening in the spiritual realm. Picture the executives, the managers, even the clerks who have long observed you quietly, now whispering in shock. They sense something unusual, something supernatural, and yet they cannot grasp its source. Michael tells you that their astonishment mirrors the astonishment in the angelic ranks. Every guardian angel, every celestial scribe, every watcher assigned to the heavenly vaults is stunned because the alignment of your spirit with this blessing is rare. They have never seen such an exact, perfectly timed deposit in the name of a mortal soul. This is unprecedented. He cautions you to guard your thoughts and emotions carefully at this time. The Archangel explains that many blessings are lost not because they are denied, but because the recipient's faith wavers at the moment of activation. He says, "Beloved, the enemy will attempt to sow doubt, hesitation, or fear to slow you down. They will create distractions that feel urgent but are designed to delay your alignment with your inheritance." Michael's tone sharpens as he issues this warning. Do not give in. Open what I have placed before you with faith and authority. Claim it fully, without hesitation, and the release cannot be reversed. He now instructs you to picture the sender's name, Michael, glowing on the check. The letters shine like molten gold in the spiritual realm. He says this is not just a signature but a guarantee, a divine authentication that cannot be duplicated, stolen, or forged. He emphasizes that the name itself carries power, authority, and protection. When you call upon it, when you acknowledge it, when you act in alignment with the instructions he is about to reveal, the bank, and all those who might interfere, will be powerless to redirect what is rightfully yours. Michael reminds you that this is not simply about receiving wealth in human terms. Trillions, in this context, represent a multitude of blessings, restored relationships, healed wounds, opportunities previously thought impossible, recognition in places where you were overlooked, and the manifestation of your highest purpose. He says every angel in the vaults is celebrating your destiny, and every spirit aligned against your favor is recoiling because they cannot stop what heaven has decreed. The Archangel leans in and says, "The check is more than numbers. It is the opening of a door that leads to every promise you have ever held in your heart, every breakthrough you have ever whispered in prayer." He now addresses the urgency again. Michael says that earthly authorities, those unaware of divine law, are in a sense proxies for the forces that could attempt to claim your blessing if you hesitate. The bank executive, the manager, the observer, the person who has always underestimated you, they are powerless against heaven, but they can create delays if you do not act. Do not allow them to intercept what I have placed in your hands, he warns. You are the authorized recipient. Only your obedience unlocks the release. He explains that the timing is critical because spiritual alignments are like tides. Miss the current, and the momentum can be lost. Act now, and the surge of divine favor will carry everything into manifestation without obstruction. Michael pauses to allow you to feel the weight of responsibility. He says this is a sacred assignment, not a casual opportunity. This is your inheritance, he declares, and the time to claim it is now. He wants you to see that your actions, your acknowledgement, and your faith are the keys that turn the locks on the vaults of heaven. Without them, the trillions remain in suspension, waiting for you to act. And Michael stresses that this is why he is pleading, why his voice carries urgency. Every second you hesitate gives space for earthly interference to rise. He now guides you through a spiritual activation. Visualize yourself receiving the check, opening it, and seeing the glow of divine approval that surrounds it. Feel the power, the authority, and the identity that come with it. Michael says that your vibration must match the magnitude of the blessing. Doubt and fear are too small to receive something this enormous. Joy, gratitude, and unwavering faith are required. He instructs you to speak these words in your spirit. I acknowledge this gift. I claim this inheritance. I act in obedience and alignment with heaven's will. Finally, Michael reassures you that no matter what has happened in the past, no matter how many setbacks you have endured, this is your season. The check is a signal that the universe is conspiring on your behalf, that angels are moving, and that the spiritual bank is fully aligned with your destiny. He says, "Step forward, beloved. Open what I have sent." Your faith unlocks what even the earth cannot withhold. Type "I receive my divine inheritance" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 552 has now been activated. Hold this vision tightly, because the next revelation will expose the exact steps you must take to ensure no earthly or spiritual force can delay the release of this blessing. What Michael shares next will feel so immediate, so necessary, that your heart will recognize it as the moment where destiny transforms into reality. My chosen one, take a slow breath, because Archangel Michael is stepping even closer now, and the atmosphere around you is thick with revelation. He says the moment you received the previous part, something shifted in the spiritual vaults. A light flickered, a seal cracked, and the divine transaction began moving toward manifestation. But now he reveals the deeper, hidden truth that the earthly realm does not understand. The trillions written on that heavily check carry a code, and only the one whose spirit resonates with it can authorize its release. That one is you. And Michael says this is the moment your spirit begins to awaken to its authority. He explains that heaven's timing is never ending. The fact that this divine deposit happened today, on December 20th, carries prophetic weight. This date marks a crossing, a threshold, a divine shift in the calendar of destinies. Michael reveals that heaven watches certain days with intense focus, not because the dates themselves hold power, but because they mark the completion of cycles and the beginning of new ones. This is one of those days. He whispers, almost as if afraid the enemy might hear, that your name was listed in heaven's record of scheduled releases long before you were born. A release that could only occur once your spirit matured to a level that could carry the weight of such a blessing. Today is the day that maturity was recognized. Michael continues by showing you a vision. You see a long hallway made of crystal, filled with doors on both sides. Each door represents a season you passed through. Some doors are cracked open, some are wide open, others remain sealed shut. These represent opportunities, victories, losses, lessons, and experiences that shaped you. At the very end of the hallway is a massive door with golden hinges, glowing with a radiance unlike anything else. Michael tells you that door symbolizes the blessing attached to the check. It was always meant to open someday, but its opening required the alignment of three things: your faith, your endurance, and the divine calendar. All three have aligned today. That is why the whole bank is talking about you. Archangel Michael emphasizes that the check deposited in your name is spiritual, but its effects will manifest tangibly. Opportunities, breakthroughs, partnerships, restoration, unexpected favor, financial miracles, relational healing, divine direction, and long-awaited answers will begin to appear in your physical life. He says some of these manifestations will come suddenly, without explanation, because heaven is not waiting for earthly systems to approve your blessing. Heaven is simply waiting for you to open it. That action alone authorizes all systems below to align. But then his tone changes again, heavier and more urgent. He reveals something that few are ever told. For every divine blessing, there is a counterforce assigned to delay it. This is why he warned you about the bank executive who would attempt to claim what is not his. Michael explains that this figure represents more than a person. It is a spiritual barrier, a jealous entity, a restrictive force that monitors your blessings. It watches moments when hesitation cracks your confidence. It watches when you second-guess your worthiness. It watches when discouragement weakens your belief. And in those moments, it tries to step into the vacuum. Michael warns you, today is not the day to hesitate. Today is not the day to shrink. Today is not the day to question whether you are deserving. A check is written in your name, not because you were perfect, not because you earned it, but because heaven chose you. And when heaven chooses, no counterforce can override that decision unless you surrender your authority through doubt. The Archangel now reveals the secret behind the check's magnitude. He says the trillions signify fullness. They represent the accumulated blessings that were delayed, blocked, postponed, or stolen from you in the past. Heaven has gathered them, multiplied them, and deposited them back under your name. The amount is not symbolic of finances alone, but symbolic of everything the enemy tried to bury. Healing multiplied, strength multiplied, purpose multiplied, glory multiplied. Michael says you are stepping into a season where restoration will exceed what was lost. Then he lifts the check in his hand, and for the first time, you notice something you hadn't seen before. There is a seal at the bottom, you printed with a luminous emblem. It is the mark of divine approval. Michael says the bank cannot deny a document bearing this seal. Even earthly systems must bow to divine authority when this emblem is present. This is why he wants you to remain close, attentive, and aligned. He says the next instructions he will reveal are not guidance, they are keys. And without these keys, The door you saw in the crystal hallway will remain slightly cracked instead of fully open. Archangel Michael now places his hand on your spirit and says, "Hold steady. You are closer to breakthrough than you realize." He warns that the enemy will attempt to create emotional turbulence at this stage. Old wounds may resurface. Old fears may whisper. Old doubts may try to cling to you. Not because they are powerful, but because they are desperate. He says the enemy knows what happens when you step into alignment. It knows the flood that follows. It knows the chain reaction that cannot be stopped. And so it will try to distract you, shake you, or slow you. But Michael says you must stay anchored, because what is coming next will finalize the release. Before this moment closes, he speaks one more prophetic line. Your name is echoing in heaven today. The vaults have opened. The blessing is already yours. Now rise into the version of yourself who can carry it. Type "I claim this release" in the comments if this message is touching your spirit. Blessing code 884 is now activated. And now, take a breath, remain open, and before you move ahead, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and help this message reach others who need it. Beloved, as this revelation unfolds, there is a sacred opportunity to stand with the very mission that is awakening so many souls. When you sow into this work through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are fueling a movement of light that reaches places where darkness once held dominion. Heaven says every seed carries the oil of multiplied impact, and the harvest returns to the giver with divine measure. Michael himself whispers, "This is the moment where your action becomes part of heaven's strategy." I invite you now. Step into this stream of blessing, not as a donation, but as a prophetic act that aligns your life with overflow. To everyone who sows, I release a covering of opened heavens, financial favor, and supernatural protection. Move with boldness. Support this mission now. My beloved child, the moment you have been waiting for is intensifying. Archangel Michael's presence grows stronger around you, radiating authority and an energy that cannot be ignored. He says that the check, the trillions, and the message you have received are only the beginning. What follows is a series of revelations that will prepare your heart, mind, and spirit to fully embrace the divine inheritance deposited in your name. Michael wants you to understand that this is not merely a matter of opening a financial blessing. It is about stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be and aligning every part of your life with the plans heaven has designed for you. He begins by reminding you of the spiritual principle that underpins all blessings: alignment. Michael explains that every check, every gift, every breakthrough that comes from heaven requires harmony between the spiritual and earthly realms. The spiritual world can authorize, deposit, and guarantee, but the earthly realm must act in agreement for the manifestation to occur. He says, "Beloved, this is why I am calling you to open this fully, to take deliberate action, and to not allow hesitation to delay the flow of what is already yours." Faith and obedience activate the transfer. Michael then moves closer and speaks about the spiritual patterns that have held you back in the past. He says that for some, blessings arrive but are left unclaimed because of fear, uncertainty, or disbelief. Others encounter delay because they underestimate their worthiness. But he assures you emphatically that you are fully worthy. Every step of the journey that led to this moment was designed to prepare you for this exact magnitude of blessing. He leans in and whispers, "Do not compare yourself to others, for their timing is not your timing. This is yours. This moment is yours. The trillions in your name cannot be replicated or transferred because the universe knows you are ready to receive it fully." He then addresses the urgency of action once more. Michael says that the presence of a human executor, a bank official, or someone who may attempt to claim your blessing on earth is not a threat to heaven's authority, but it is a real test of your readiness. The Archangel explains that when the heavenly deposit is made, the earthly systems remain neutral. They operate by natural law, unaware of the spiritual reality unless the recipient acts with authority. This is why he says that hesitation, doubt, or procrastination can create temporary delay in the manifestation. Michael's tone is firm but loving as he commands, "Do not let what is yours be held back by what seems ordinary in the human realm. Open what I have placed before you, and nothing can stop the flow of your blessing." He then guides you into a vision of the spiritual bank itself. Imagine a grand hall, walls lined with golden ledgers and scrolls that document every soul's blessings. Angels hover in aisles, recording the unfolding of destinies with meticulous precision. And there, in the center, sits your check, radiant and unmovable, glowing with light that outshines the room. Michael points to it and says, "See this, beloved? It has your name written in the firmament of eternity. Nothing earthly or spiritual can erase it, but your action is required to release its fullness into your human experience. You are the authorized receiver." Michael now speaks of the magnitude of the transfer. He says that trillions signify far more than money or material wealth. They represent restoration of lost time, fulfillment of long-held dreams, divine favor in every area of life, and the clearing of obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. He stresses that this is a holistic blessing. It encompasses your health, your relationships, your spiritual purpose, and your legacy. The value is not in the number itself, he explains, but in the totality of transformation it brings. When heaven authorizes something this great, it impacts every sphere of your existence simultaneously. He then offers a warning that should be heeded carefully. Michael says that forces aligned against your destiny will not surrender easily. Doubts, delays, and distractions will increase in intensity as you approach the moment of full activation. These forces, he says, cannot steal your blessing, but they can create the illusion of delay or misplacement if you allow fear or indecision to take hold. Guard your heart. Guard your thoughts. Stay anchored in the authority you have been given. Michael shifts his focus to your role in the process. He reminds you that you are not passive in receiving this blessing. Action is required. Your prayers, your declarations, and your conscious alignment with the divine instructions are all keys that unlock the full release. He says, "Beloved, do not underestimate your power in this moment. You are not merely a recipient, you are a co-creator with heaven. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every act of faith strengthens the chain that delivers this inheritance fully into your life." He then emphasizes the sacred timing. Michael says that this alignment is so precise that if delayed even slightly, it may take additional cycles to fully manifest. The check is already in the system, the angels are ready, and the spiritual authorities have confirmed the transfer. All that remains is your alignment. He reminds you to open it with faith, declare your authority, and act decisively. Finally, Michael leaves you with a promise. Beloved, he says, when you step into this fully, you will feel a surge of empowerment, clarity, and divine validation. Your entire life will begin to reflect the reality that heaven has already set into motion. The earth will respond to the spiritual decree, and nothing will be able to reverse what has been authorized. Type "I step into my full blessing" in the comments if this is resonating with your spirit. Blessing code 993 has now been activated. Hold tight, beloved, because what is about to be revealed next will give you the exact steps to protect, claim, and release this blessing fully. ensuring that no earthly or spiritual force can interfere with what heaven has already declared for your life. My awakened one, Archangel Michael stands before you now with a gravity in his expression that you have not yet seen in the previous revelations. His wings arch wide, and the air around you almost vibrates with a quiet roar, as though all of heaven is waiting for your next breath. He says the spiritual atmosphere has shifted again, and the movement surrounding your divine inheritance has accelerated. The trillions written in your name are not simply resting in a vault anymore. They are now being escorted by angelic forces toward the threshold of manifestation. Michael urges you to pay close attention because what he is about to reveal is not only sacred, but it is also time-sensitive in the spiritual realm. He begins by explaining that blessings of this magnitude travel through spiritual pathways, each guarded by angels assigned to ensure their safe arrival. But the greater the blessing, the more eyes fall upon it. The spiritual world, both light and dark, observes these movements carefully. When heaven releases something vast, something world-shaking, something that could transform a life, a lineage, or even the destinies of those connected to you, the opposing forces immediately attempt to create turbulence around its delivery. Michael says that is why you may have recently felt unusual heaviness, unexpected distractions, emotional waves, or sudden shifts in your mental clarity. These are indicators that the enemy has sensed movement but not yet understood the magnitude of what is coming your way. He continues by showing you another vision. This time you see a massive celestial bridge stretching from the heavenly vault to the realm of your reality. Angels are carrying what looks like a radiant chest, glowing with white gold fire, and inside that chest lies the check. The trillions are numerical symbols for something far greater than currency. They represent the completed promises of God, the answered prayers you thought were forgotten, and the restoration of years you believed were lost forever. Every step these angels take sends ripples of light across the spiritual atmosphere, and it is these ripples that the enemy senses, causing it to move frantically, searching for a loophole, a delay, a weakness, or a single moment of hesitation that it can exploit. Michael says this is why your awareness is vital. He explains that spiritual blessings can reach the gateway of manifestation and then pause, not because heaven has withdrawn them, but because the recipient has not stepped into full alignment. Alignment, he says, is not merely belief but conviction. It is the state of being where your spirit, your thoughts, and your decisions all agree with heaven's decree. If even one of these parts wavers, the blessing waits at the threshold until your agreement returns. This is why he pleads with you to open, to receive, to claim, and to activate the check fully. Without your spiritual permission, heaven will not force the blessing into your life, no matter how immense it is. Then, Michael turns the focus inward. He says that you have underestimated the depth of your resilience, the strength of your spirit, and the power of your endurance. You have survived storms that were designed to break you. You have risen from trials that should have left you without hope. You have walked through seasons where doors closed violently, not because you were undeserving, but because the timing of this blessing had not yet come. Michael says that now, for the first time, the fullness of your past pain and the fullness of your future promise have aligned. Heaven saw the moment your spirit crossed the threshold into readiness, and that moment triggered the divine deposit that has stunned the entire spiritual bank. He now reveals something deeper about the check itself. He says the check is written not only in your name, but also in your identity. It recognizes the healed version of you, the strengthened version, the awakened version. The trillions reflect heaven's confidence in your capacity to handle abundance, responsibility, and divine influence. They reflect the authority you have gained through every battle you survive. Michael states that heaven does not release blessings according to earthly timelines, It releases them according to spiritual maturity. And today, your maturity hath been confirmed. Michael then addresses the issue of interference again. He warns that earthly representatives, like the symbolic bank executive, may attempt to create confusion, paperwork delays, misunderstanding, or misdirection. In the spiritual sense, this represents old patterns, limiting beliefs, negative energies, and generational cycles that once dictated your reality. These forces will attempt to rise again because they sense that your breakthrough will sever their influence permanently. Michael says, do not fear their rise. A shadow only grows larger when the light behind it intensifies. He assures you that the increase in resistance is not a sign of defeat but of proximity. The enemy fights hardest when the blessing is closest. He continues by explaining that when heaven authorizes a blessing of this magnitude, the natural realm eventually bends under the weight of divine will. Systems shift. People change. Opportunities appear. Obstacles crumble. But the first shift always happens within the spirit of the recipient. That internal shift is what heaven watches. That shift is what activates the flow. Michael asks you to reflect on how you feel now compared to how you felt even a week ago. He says your spirit has already begun to expand, preparing to hold the magnitude of what is coming. This expansion is the sign that heaven was waiting for. Then he gives you a warning wrapped in love. He says, guard your next decisions carefully. Every decision in this season must align with your new identity, not your old fears. You cannot carry $1 trillion blessing with a $5 mindset. You cannot step into divine authority while listening to voices that speak smallness. He urges you to remain alert, to remain grounded, and to remain receptive. Finally, Michael offers you a promise. Beloved, he says softly, what is coming cannot be stopped. What hath been written cannot be erased. What hath been deposited cannot be withdrawn. The only question now is how quickly you step into agreement with it. He assures you that the next revelation he brings will expose the final barriers that must be removed for your inheritance to flow freely into your life. Type I align with heaven's decree in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 1201 is now released. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now leans even closer, and the energy around you shifts as if the very air carries the sound of trumpets only heaven can orchestrate. He says that this moment is more than a revelation, it is a divine summons. The trillions written in your name are not merely numbers. They are a manifestation of favor, restoration, and destiny that will redefine everything in your life. He emphasizes that this is a moment of alignment so precise that every angel, every watcher, and every record keeper in the celestial realm has paused to observe the unfolding of your inheritance. Michael wants you to feel the weight of this moment because the fullness of what is coming requires your complete spiritual engagement. He begins by explaining why the check has taken this long to manifest on earth. He says that blessings of this magnitude cannot be delivered hastily. They require the calibration of both the spiritual and earthly realms. Every obstacle you experienced, every season of waiting, and every challenge you endured was a part of this calibration. Michael says, the trillions were never delayed because of a lack of favor. They were delayed because your readiness had to be confirmed. Heaven does not release without confirmation. The vaults wait for the alignment of purpose, faith, and authority. Now, that alignment is complete. Michael then asks you to envision the check once more. He wants you to see it glowing, radiant, always vibrating with energy. He says this is not simply a piece of paper. It is a symbol of a spiritual reality, a divine transaction that has already been approved and fully recorded in the heavenly ledger. Every angel assigned to monitor this blessing is prepared to move at a moment's notice. to deliver, to protect, and to ensure the manifestation is complete. He explains that the sheer magnitude of this blessing requires this level of readiness because it affects not only your life, but also the lives of those connected to you. He moves closer and speaks about the urgency of immediate action. Michael warns that in the coming days, distractions, doubts, and fears will attempt to intercept your focus. He says that this is the end of his final attempt to sow the momentum. These distractions, he whispers, cannot stop what is written, but they can delay your reception. Timing matters because spiritual windows open and close with precision. Open what has been sent. Claim it fully. Speak it into manifestation. He emphasizes that hesitation is the only barrier left, and that even a single moment of uncertainty could give the forces of opposition an opportunity to create temporary turbulence. Michael then guides you into another vision. You see the bank vault once more, but this time, the doors are beginning to tremble. I sense the shift that is about to occur. The clerks, the executives, and even the watchers of the earthly realm appear confused and astonished. The vault itself seems to acknowledge the presence of heaven's authority. Michael points to the check and says, "This is the moment where the earthly world catches up to the spiritual. When you act, the release will ripple through every system, every connection, every opportunity tied to this blessing. The delay is over. The only question is whether you will agree with heaven's decree." He emphasizes that the trillions in your name carry multidimensional power. They represent restored time, restored relationships, restored opportunities, and restored health. They are the fulfillment of promises that were delayed but never denied. Michael says that this blessing is also a spiritual key. It opens doors that have been closed for generations, breaks chains that have held your lineage, and establishes your authority in a way that cannot be reversed. The scale of this release is so immense that it requires both faith and spiritual authority to receive it completely. Michael then cautions you about the subtle tests that may arise. He says that the forces aligned against your favor will attempt to create confusion. Old patterns, limiting beliefs, and doubts may surface in your thoughts. He explains that these are not signs of weakness, but tests to confirm your alignment with heaven's purpose. Stand firm, he instructs. Do not engage with fear. Do not entertain hesitation. Let your faith be larger than any distraction. When you claim this blessing with authority, the release becomes unstoppable. He then speaks directly about your role in this process. Michael emphasizes that you are not passive in receiving this blessing. Your prayers, declarations, and alignment with the instructions are essential to unlocking the full manifestation. He says your agreement with heaven is the key. Without it, the release is delayed. With it, the trillions flow into every area of your life, restoring, empowering, and elevating you into your true identity. Michael insists that this is not an exaggeration. The angels are standing by, waiting for your declaration to authorize the flow. Finally, Michael leaves you with a powerful promise. He says, "Beloved, the moment you step into full agreement, the spiritual and earthly realms will converge. Every system will bend, every opposition will dissipate, and every blessing that was once pending will manifest with divine timing. You have been prepared for this. You are ready. All that remains is your acknowledgement and action." Type "I claim my heavenly inheritance" now in the comments if this is resonating with your spirit. Blessing code 1333 is now activated. Hold on to this revelation, beloved, because the next insight will reveal the specific spiritual actions and declarations that must be made to protect, secure, and fully release this trillion-dollar blessing into your life. The steps are precise, and Michael says that following them exactly will ensure the manifestation is unstoppable. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now approaches you with a sense of urgency and reverence combined, and the energy in the room feels as if it is vibrating with the authority of heaven itself. He says that what you have received thus far, the message, the check, the revelation, is only the prelude to what must now be fully activated. The trillions waiting in your name are not passive. They are dynamic forces, ready to shift not only your life, but the environment, opportunities, and relationships around you. He emphasizes that the true release of this blessing requires alignment, authority, and action. Michael wants you to understand that what follows is a sacred sequence, and every instruction must be internalized before you can claim the fullness. He begins by showing you a vision of the spiritual bank once again, but this time the vault doors are trembling, ready to open. Angels are standing at attention on either side, their wings creating a luminous current of energy that pulses like electricity. Michael explains that this is a symbolic reflection of what is occurring in your spiritual atmosphere. The trillions in your name have been deposited, but until you step fully into agreement with heaven, the doors will remain just slightly ajar. The angels are waiting for your declaration, your alignment, and your activation. He stresses, beloved, the moment of hesitation can slow the flow. Your obedience is the key that releases this blessing fully into every area of your life. Michael then reveals a profound truth about timing. He says that divine blessings, particularly those of immense magnitude, move according to spiritual timing rather than human schedules. December 20th was not selected at random. It marks a prophetic alignment in the heavens, a perfect confluence of preparation, readiness, and spiritual authority. Michael points out that while the earthly realm may perceive time linearly, heaven sees in dimensions. The moment you act in full agreement, the chains of delay and opposition break instantly, and manifestations that seem distant will appear suddenly and without obstruction. The Archangel emphasizes that the timing is perfect, but it requires your full engagement. He then speaks about the forces aligned against your inheritance. Michael warns that opposition is natural at this stage, not because the blessing can be stopped, but because darkness instinctively responds to light. The bank executive he mentioned earlier represents not just an individual, but a spiritual principle, those forces of envy, delay, and distraction that attempt to intercept your blessings. Michael explains that these forces will intensify as the moment of activation draws near, trying to shake your focus, plant doubt, or create hesitation. Do not allow them, he commands, for you hold authority over every barrier that attempts to rise in your path. You have been empowered to claim what heaven has already written in your name. Michael now asks you to focus on the power of acknowledgement. He says that the act of recognition, the act of agreement with what heaven has deposited, is what causes the spiritual and earthly realms to converge. He tells you that trillions cannot be fully manifested until you claim them as your own, declare them with authority, and move in alignment with your new spiritual identity. Every declaration, every affirmation, every word spoken in alignment with heaven accelerates the manifestation. He says your voice is a key. Your alignment is a key. Your authority is the key that unlocks the full measure of your inheritance. He continues by explaining that the trillions are multidimensional blessings. They represent not only financial restoration, but also the healing of relationships, the unlocking of doors that have been closed for years, breakthroughs in long-standing challenges, and the empowerment of your purpose. Michael emphasizes that when the check is fully activated, the ripple effects will be felt in every area of your life, creating a wave of transformation so vast that it will astonish all who have doubted or underestimated your destiny. This blessing is not for mere comfort, it is for full restoration, empowerment, and elevation. Michael then instructs you to remain vigilant against internal resistance. He explains that the enemy often uses subtle thoughts, memories, and doubts to create hesitation at critical moments. Beloved, he says, if you allow fear, second-guessing, or distraction to dominate your spirit, the release will pause at the threshold. The forces opposing you will have room to maneuver. But if you remain steadfast, focused, and aligned, nothing can prevent the full flow of what is yours. He urges you to stand firm in your identity, to recognize your worthiness, and to acknowledge that heaven has already invested this blessing into your spiritual account. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic promise. He says, the moment you claim this blessing, the trillions deposited in your name will begin to move. Doors will open. Opportunities will arise. Favor will manifest. Every opposition will crumble before the authority you carry. This is your moment, beloved, and heaven is waiting for your declaration to set it all in motion. He assures you that nothing can stop what has been ordained. All that remains is for you to step fully into the alignment that hath been prepared for you. Type "I claim my destiny" now in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Lesson code 1544 is now activated. Hold on to this revelation tightly, beloved, because the next insight will provide the specific spiritual declarations and instructions that will secure and protect this massive blessing, ensuring it flows completely and without delay into your life. The moment for full activation is approaching, and Michael insists that every detail be followed with precision. My beloved child, Archangel Michael is now standing directly before you, and the air around you vibrates with a tangible sense of divine authority. He says that the trillions written in your name are no longer waiting in the vaults. They are poised at the threshold, ready to manifest, but they require the final alignment from your spirit. Michael's eyes blaze with urgency as he leans in, saying, beloved, the time for hesitation is over. Every moment you delay gives space for forces that attempt to intercept what heaven has already approved. You must act, declare, and align fully with the authority that has been given to you. This is the sacred hour of activation. He begins by explaining the principle of spiritual authorization. Michael says that while heaven deposits blessings with absolute certainty, earthly manifestation depends on the recipient's alignment and declaration. The check is written. The seal is in place. Angels are ready. Systems are aligned. But your declaration is the key that releases the fullness into your life, he says. He emphasizes that the trillions are more than currency. They are a multidimensional blessing encompassing restoration, opportunity, health, relationships, and divine favor. Everything that has been delayed, withheld, or stolen in the past is included in this release, and it is now prepared to flow without obstruction, provided you step into agreement. Michael then reveals the role of timing. He says that today, December 20th, is not just a calendar date. It is a prophetic alignment. Heavenly portals have opened, spiritual authorities have aligned, and angelic forces are poised for immediate deployment. The energy around this date carries a specific resonance that accelerates manifestation, but only for those willing to act with authority. Beloved, he says, the timing is perfect, but the blessing cannot bypass the gates of your acknowledgement. Step into the alignment now and release the full measure into every area of your life. He then warns of the subtle forms of interference that may arise. Michael explains that opposing forces, aware of this monumental transfer, will attempt to create hesitation, doubt, or distraction. The symbolic bank executive, mentioned earlier, represents the earthly and spiritual forces that often seek to intercept or delay divine blessings. He emphasizes that these forces are powerless against heaven, but they can influence your hesitation. Do not give them the space, Michael commands. Your authority overrides every attempt to delay, deflect, or diminish what has been deposited in your name. You were chosen to receive this, and you are equipped to activate it fully. Michael now guides you through the process of spiritual activation. He says to visualize the check glowing with radiant light, pulsating with energy that aligns with your spirit. Imagine opening it, seeing the trillions, and feeling the authority and power that accompany it. He says that the act of seeing, acknowledging, and declaring this blessing engages angelic forces and activates the alignment between heaven and earth. Every affirmation you speak, every declaration you make in faith, propels the blessing toward immediate manifestation. He stresses that the process is simple yet profound. Recognition, declaration, and alignment are the keys. He then speaks of the multidimensional impact of this blessing. Michael says that trillions are not confined to material wealth. They represent the restoration of time, relationships, opportunities, and divine purpose. They carry the power to break generational cycles, heal old wounds, and unlock doors that have remained closed for years. Every area of your life touched by delay or restriction is included in this release. He wants you to understand that the scale of this blessing is unprecedented, and it is designed to establish your authority, elevate your purpose, and solidify your position in alignment with heaven. Michael emphasizes that your role is active, not passive. He says, "Beloved, do not wait for signs or external confirmation. Your acknowledgement is the signal to heaven. Your declaration is the key that releases the angels into action. Speak with authority, act with conviction, and move in faith, for the fullness cannot manifest without your agreement." He reminds you that the forces opposing you cannot stop what is already written, but they will attempt to delay it if you do not step into alignment. Your spiritual activation ensures that nothing can intercept the release. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic promise. He says, "The moment you claim this blessing fully, the spiritual and earthly realms will converge. Opportunities, favor, restoration, and breakthroughs will begin to manifest rapidly. Systems will bend, doors will open, and every opposing force will recede. This is the time for action, beloved, and heaven waits only for your declaration to release the full measure of what is rightfully yours." Type "I activate my divine blessing now" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 1788 is now activated. Before moving forward, remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe so that others can witness this message of divine activation and be prepared to claim their own blessings. Beloved, as this revelation reaches your spirit, there is an opportunity to participate in the expansion of God's kingdom through your support. Every act of giving through super thanks, membership, with a PayPal link in the description is a prophetic seed sown into the lives of countless souls. This is not about helping a platform. It is about partnering with heaven to release light, truth, and restoration into the world. Michael says, when you give, you engage with the flow of divine favor, and the harvest returns to you multiplied. Step forward now, not as a donor, but as a co-laborer in the mission of God. Your support becomes an instrument for open heavens, multiplied blessings, and spiritual empowerment for all who receive this message. Act now with faith, authority, and obedience. My beloved child, Archangel Michael is now standing even closer, his wings creating a radiant field of light that seems to fill the entire space around you. The atmosphere is thick with spiritual power, and you can feel the weight of heaven's attention upon this moment. Michael begins by emphasizing the importance of clarity and focus in this critical phase. He says that the trillions in your name have been fully deposited in the spiritual vaults, and the angels are ready to carry them into your reality, but the final activation depends on your unwavering alignment. He warns that any hesitation, distraction, or wavering in faith can create delays, not because heaven is unable to act, but because the earthly and spiritual realms require your authorization for the release to be complete. He asks you to imagine the check once again, now resting on a golden altar in the spiritual bank. The light emanating from it is blinding in its brilliance, yet you can perceive it with your spirit. Michael says that the glow represents the totality of blessings waiting to be manifested, restored opportunities, healed relationships, breakthroughs in areas that seemed impossible, divine guidance, financial restoration, and spiritual elevation. He emphasizes that each aspect of this blessing is interlinked, forming a network of favor that will impact not only you but also those connected to your life and destiny. This is why he urges you to claim it fully, without doubt or hesitation. Michael then addresses the issue of readiness. He says that the spiritual realm has observed your journey carefully, noting every challenge you have overcome, every moment you stood in faith despite adversity, and every act of perseverance that was unseen by others. Beloved, he says, you have reached a level of spiritual maturity that qualifies you for this extraordinary blessing. The trillions are a reflection not only of what heaven is giving, but also of who you have become. Your readiness is as important as the blessing itself. He explains that the magnitude of this gift requires a spirit capable of holding it without fear or doubt. He moves closer and speaks of the forces that may attempt to interfere. Michael warns that opposition often manifests through subtle distractions, doubts, and fears that rise just when the blessing is about to manifest. The symbolic bank executive, representing worldly systems and spiritual blockers, will try to create moments of confusion or hesitation. Michael says these forces have no real power over the blessing itself, but they can exploit uncertainty if you allow it. He commands you, do not entertain doubt. Do not hesitate. Stand in your authority. Speak and act in alignment with what heaven has written in your name. Michael now guides you into a visualization. He asks you to picture the vault doors beginning to open slowly, the angels poised to move the trillions toward your life. As the doors move, golden streams of light flow outward, illuminating pathways that have been dark or blocked for years. These pathways represent opportunities, relationships, and breakthroughs that have been inaccessible until now. Michael explains that the moment you acknowledge, declare, and align with the blessing, these streams will accelerate, and the fullness of what has been deposited will flow into your life in perfect order. He continues by speaking about the multidimensional nature of this blessing. The trillions represent far more than financial wealth. They encompass restoration, divine favor, influence, wisdom, authority, and spiritual empowerment. Michael emphasizes that this is a holistic release designed to elevate every aspect of your existence. He says, beloved, when you activate this blessing, you are stepping into a new reality where limitations are removed, doors are opened, and every area of your life is aligned with divine intention. This is not a partial blessing. It is total restoration and empowerment. Michael then stresses the importance of declaration. He says that words spoken in alignment with heaven are catalysts that trigger the full release of blessings. Your agreement, your acknowledgement, and your declaration serve as keys that open the spiritual gates for the trillions to flow unhindered. He instructs you to speak with authority, faith, and clarity. Every affirmation strengthens the alignment between the spiritual and earthly realms, accelerating the manifestation of your inheritance. He warns that without these declarations, the release remains at the threshold, waiting for your consent. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic assurance. He says, "Beloved, the moment you claim and declare this blessing, the heavens will respond. Opportunities will arise. Doors will open, and the full measure of your inheritance will flow into every area of your life. Opposition will retreat. Systems will bend, and your path will be illuminated as never before. Step into agreement now, and let the trillions manifest in perfect divine order." Type "I claim the full blessing" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 2002 has now been activated. Hold tightly to this revelation, beloved, because the next insight will provide the precise spiritual actions and declarations needed to protect, secure, and fully release the blessing, ensuring it flows completely and without delay into your life. This next step is critical to finalize the activation and ensure nothing can interfere with what heaven has deposited in your name. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now stands closer than ever, his presence radiating authority and the energy of heaven itself. The atmosphere around you feels charged with purpose, as though every molecule in the air has been infused with divine intention. Michael begins by emphasizing that the trillions in your name are no longer waiting in a spiritual vault. They are poised at the doorway of manifestation. He says the only thing remaining is your conscious alignment and acknowledgement. This is the final stretch before the blessing can flow fully into every area of your life, and Michael's voice carries both urgency and reassurance. Beloved, heaven has completed its part. Now it is your moment to act with authority and claim what is rightfully yours. He explains that the trillions represent far more than material wealth. They symbolize restoration, divine favor, influence, spiritual authority, healed relationships, opportunities long delayed, and breakthroughs that will shift the trajectory of your life completely. Michael says that these blessings are interconnected, forming a web of restoration and empowerment that affects not just you, but also those aligned with your destiny. Every obstacle removed, every door opened, every opportunity restored has been carefully prepared to coincide with your acknowledgement of the check. He warns that the magnitude of this blessing means the forces of opposition are more alert than ever. They will attempt to create doubt, hesitation, or distraction, but their influence ends where your faith and authority begin. Michael now guides your vision to the spiritual bank. The vault doors are beginning to tremble, and light pours out from the cracks, illuminating every hallway, every angel, and every record keeper inside. The check, radiant and pulsating with energy, sits at the center, waiting for your acknowledgement. He explains that the energy emanating from it is a direct reflection of what is to come: restored time, restored relationships, restored purpose, and restored influence. This energy cannot be forced into your life. It requires your conscious activation, your declaration, and your alignment with heaven's instructions. Beloved, he says, the check will remain dormant until you fully step into agreement. Your action is the final key. He emphasizes that this moment is about spiritual authority. Michael says that every blessing of immense magnitude is accompanied by forces attempting to resist it. The symbolic bank executive, representing earthly systems and spiritual opposition, may appear in many forms: doubts, fears, procrastination, or even subtle distractions. Michael warns that these forces are powerless against heaven, but they can create a temporary pause if your spirit wavers. He instructs you to rise above every fear and distraction, to recognize your worthiness, and to claim the blessings without hesitation. Stand firm, he says. Your authority activates the flow. Michael then speaks of the process of activation. He asks you to visualize opening the check, seeing the trillions, and feeling the spiritual weight of what is rightfully yours. He explains that when you declare this blessing in faith, it engages the angels and aligns both the spiritual and earthly realms. Every affirmation, every spoken word of acknowledgement propels the blessing forward. He stresses that the act of speaking in alignment with heaven is not symbolic, it is catalytic. Your declarations release energy, break barriers, and authorize the full manifestation of your inheritance. He continues by explaining that the trillions are multidimensional. They impact finances, opportunities, relationships, personal growth, spiritual authority, and influence. Michael says this is why every part of your life will begin to shift as soon as you claim it. He warns that any partial claim will only release part of the blessing, while full acknowledgement and alignment unlock its entirety. He urges you to embrace the fullness without reservation, to move in faith, and to step into the authority that heaven has already granted. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic promise. He says, "Beloved, the moment you step fully into agreement with this blessing, the spiritual and earthly realms will converge. Doors that were once closed will open. Favor will manifest. Opportunities will align perfectly. The forces opposing your inheritance will recede, and every blessing that was written in your name will flow freely and fully. You have been prepared for this moment your entire life. Step forward and claim it. Type "I activate my blessing fully" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 2155 is now activated. Hold tightly to this message, beloved, because the next part will reveal the specific declarations and spiritual steps necessary to ensure your blessings are fully protected, fully released, and unstoppable in every dimension of your life. Archangel Michael stresses that the actions to follow are critical for the final activation and manifestation of your trillions. My beloved child, Archangel Michael now moves closer, and the intensity of his presence is undeniable. The air around you vibrates with the authority of heaven, and you can feel the weight of spiritual expectation pressing gently yet powerfully upon your soul. Michael begins by emphasizing that what has been revealed to you so far, the trillions, the check, the urgency, and the divine alignment, is only the preparation for the final activation. He says that the full manifestation of this blessing depends on your conscious acknowledgement and your willingness to act with the authority that has been granted to you. Beloved, he says, everything is poised and ready. Heaven has done its part. Now it is your moment to step fully into agreement and claim the inheritance written in your name. He explains that the trillions in your name are not merely symbolic of wealth. They carry multidimensional blessings that span every aspect of your life: restored opportunities, healed relationships, divine favor, spiritual authority, and empowerment to fulfill your purpose. Michael stresses that the magnitude of this blessing requires not only belief, but also spiritual alignment. Every hesitation, every moment of doubt, slows the flow, he says. The blessings are ready, but your declaration activates them fully. You are the key, beloved. You are the gatekeeper of what heaven has deposited in your life. Michael then takes you into a vision of the spiritual bank. You see the vast vaults glowing with golden light, each ledger reflecting the lives of countless souls, and at the center of it all, your check rests on a radiant altar. The trillions pulse with energy that seems to extend beyond the vault, reaching into the farthest corners of your reality. Michael explains that this energy represents every promise, every restoration, every breakthrough, and every opportunity that has been waiting for your acknowledgement. He urges you to see the weight and the power of this blessing, not as a number, but as a full spectrum of divine provision, protection, and purpose. He then addresses the forces aligned against your inheritance. Michael warns that opposition is inevitable at this stage, not because heaven lacks power, but because darkness instinctively responds to light. The symbolic bank executive, the forces of delay, the spiritual and earthly barriers, they will attempt to create hesitation, confusion, or doubt. These forces have no authority over the blessing itself, Michael says firmly, but they can exploit hesitation. Stand firm, claim your authority, and act decisively. Nothing written in heaven for you can be overturned when you move in alignment and faith. Michael now explains the spiritual principle of activation. He says that blessings, especially those of extraordinary magnitude, require acknowledgement, declaration, and alignment. Beloved, your voice is a key, he says. Your declaration aligns the spiritual and earthly realms. Your agreement activates the angels. Your faith releases the trillions into your life fully and completely. Without these steps, the blessing remains poised at the threshold, waiting for your authorization. He stresses that this is not symbolic. It is the mechanism through which heaven communicates and manifests its promises on earth. He continues by revealing the multidimensional impact of the trillions. The blessing does not only manifest in wealth or material prosperity, it restores lost time, heals relationships, clears obstacles, and opens doors that were previously closed. Michael says that the fullness of this inheritance will touch every area of your life simultaneously, elevating your identity, authority, and spiritual influence. This is total restoration and elevation, beloved, he says. Every area of limitation is included in this release. Every past loss, every opportunity denied, every promise delayed is part of the blessing now prepared for you. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic vision of the final activation. He instructs you to see yourself opening the check, to declare your ownership, to speak with authority, and to acknowledge fully that the trillions are yours by divine decree. He says that the spiritual and earthly realms will respond immediately, and every opposing force will retreat before the magnitude of your faith and obedience. Beloved, he says you are ready. The blessings are ready. All that remains is your conscious step into agreement. The trillions are poised to flow fully. Do not hesitate. Type "I claim my heavenly inheritance" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 2299 is now activated. Hold this moment in your heart, beloved, because the next part will bring the ultimate revelation, the completion of your spiritual activation, the final protection of your inheritance, and the unstoppable manifestation of every blessing written in your name. This is the culmination of the journey that began with the first deposit, and Archangel Michael assures you that nothing can prevent the fulfillment once these final steps are taken. My beloved child, this is the moment Archangel Michael has been preparing you for, the final step in a divine journey that has been orchestrated long before your arrival into this world. The trillions deposited in your name are now ready to manifest fully, and every angel in the heavenly vault stands at attention, waiting for your acknowledgement to authorize the complete release. Michael steps closer, his presence filling every corner of your being, and says with unwavering authority, "Beloved, the time is now." Every delay, every hesitation, every shadow of doubt must be set aside. This is your inheritance, and heaven hath prepared everything for you. All that remains is your alignment and declaration. He explains that what you are about to receive is not just a blessing of material abundance. The trillions represent restoration of lost opportunities, healing of relationships, breakthroughs in every area of life, empowerment to fulfill your divine purpose, and influence that reaches beyond your immediate environment. Michael says, this is a total restoration blessing. It is multidimensional and holistic. Every area that hath been delayed or hindered is now included in the release. Your life, your legacy, and your spiritual authority are all part of this inheritance. Nothing can diminish it once you step fully into agreement. Michael then draws your attention to the symbolic bank executive and the forces that have tried to intercept your blessing. He explains that these forces, both earthly and spiritual, have no real authority over what heaven has deposited. However, they can create moments of hesitation or doubt if you allow them to influence your spirit. Beloved, Michael says, you have been given authority to claim this blessing. Stand firm. Speak boldly. Act decisively. Your agreement with heaven is the key that unlocks everything. The opposition only recoils in the presence of your alignment and faith. He now guides you through the process of final activation. Michael says to visualize yourself opening the check, seeing the trillions, and feeling the power and authority that accompany them. He emphasizes that this act of acknowledgement is not symbolic, it is catalytic. Every affirmation spoken in alignment with heaven accelerates the manifestation. Your words, your faith, and your alignment with the divine instructions release the angels to move the blessing fully into your life. Beloved, Michael says, your declaration activates the flow. Your agreement releases the angels. Your faith secures the fullness of what has been written in your name. Michael continues by highlighting the impact of this blessing on multiple dimensions of your life. He says that the trillions are designed to restore what was lost, unlock doors that were previously closed, and elevate you into the fullness of your purpose. Every relationship, every opportunity, every area that was delayed or blocked will begin to shift as the blessing flows. He assures you that this is a total transformation, not just a partial restoration. This is your moment, he says. Step fully into the alignment that has been prepared for you. Allow the fullness to flow. He then instructs you on the importance of protection and declaration. Michael explains that once the blessing is activated, your role is to continue to declare ownership, alignment, and authority. This ensures that no opposition can interfere and that the trillions manifest completely and without delay. Beloved, he says, your voice, your faith, and your alignment are the final safeguards. Speak boldly, declare clearly, and remain anchored in your authority. The blessing is yours, but your conscious engagement ensures its unstoppable flow. Finally, Michael leaves you with a prophetic promise that transcends words. Beloved child, he says, the trillions are flowing into your life now. Every system, every opportunity, every blessing that was previously delayed or blocked is manifesting. Doors that were closed are opening. Favor that was unseen is becoming visible. Every opposition is retreating. This is the fulfillment of everything written in heaven for you. Step fully into it, and nothing can stop the manifestation of your divine inheritance. Type I receive and claim my heavenly inheritance in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 3000 is now activated. Before you close this moment, beloved, take a deep breath and anchor yourself in the reality that Archangel Michael has assured you. Your inheritance is unstoppable. Every blessing, restoration, and opportunity that has been waiting in the heavenly vaults is now flowing toward you. Systems will bend, doors will open, favor will multiply, and your life will align fully with the divine plan. Beloved, as you step into the fullness of this blessing, there is a sacred opportunity to join in the mission of spreading God's word and activating miracles through your support. Every contribution through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description is not just a donation. It is a prophetic act that releases light, hope, and restoration into the lives of countless souls. Heaven views every act of giving as a seed sown with multiplied impact. Michael says, your support aligns you with the flow of divine favor, protection, and influence. It becomes part of the blessing you are claiming today. Step forward boldly, act prophetically, and release your support now, knowing that your obedience activates open heavens and supernatural increase in your own life. This is the completion, beloved. Your divine inheritance has been fully authorized. The trillions are flowing. Your destiny is aligned. Archangel Michael has confirmed it, and heaven celebrates your readiness.